with us since the late 13th or early 14th century. It's that sort of period. It's an oak polychrome Madonna. In other words, it's painted. Polychrome just simply means painted. If you went to France or Spain or any of the continental countries and you visited a church or a museum now, more so, you will find Madonnas with the elongated face of that type. So this is of the European type, but it's believed to have been carved here in this region of County Galway. So this statue, probably, I argue in my own work, that this statue was actually in the convent of the canonesses, of the Araucasian canonesses here in Clonfert. We had a cathedral, which was the parish church. We had an Augustinian abbey, which was usurped on many times by Maddens. The Maddens were in charge of that so many times. The Egans, the various Gaelic families here really took control of the monastery. There was not a stone of the monastery left. There was not a stone of the convent left. But what does survive is this statue. And according to folk tradition, two men cutting a tree. While they were cutting the tree, the blood issued from the side of the tree, and they had actually severed the arm of the Virgin. Now, accept that or dismiss it. That's totally up to yourself. That's the folk tradition. But what is important here is that you're looking at what we call an upright or a standing Madonna. And she takes the artistic influence comes from St. Francis. The earlier Madonnas we have in this region are all enthroned. So what you're looking at is Our Lady as the Queen of Heaven, with the Christ child in her lap being presented as the princely King of Heaven. Whereas in this case, it's a totally different symbolism, a totally different meaning. The Franciscans brought in this more humanistic form of thinking in that. Or what you're looking at here is you're seeing Our Lady here being reflected as the mother of the human race. So she's an earthly mother. She's not the Queen of Heaven. He's not the Prince of Heaven, or he's the young Christ, but he's only a child playing with his mother's hair, as you can see there. So it's a totally different thing. It's far more comforting for people in that. The three colours you see there, well, there are more than three colours, but the red, that vermilion, that's typical of that period. We had only a certain amount of base colours in the medieval world. They were all natural, from ochres and leaves and different things like that. We didn't have the synthetic colours we have today. So you had a small palette, but a wonderful palette. You had that lovely blue, it's almost a turquoise blue there on the dress of the Virgin. And then the other thing that's always important to look out for is when you see the Christ child in medieval art, he's always shown with a more adult head. The head is far bigger than it should be. It's far older than his years because of the wisdom. It's symbolic, it's not a mistake. It wasn't that they couldn't do it. It's what they showed the Christ child as far superior to his years as a child. You know, this was an infant, but this guy has the wisdom of God, if you like. What else could I say about it? Yeah, I was in charge of this when I was a young fella. Back, what age are you? No, we're all in the same boat. Yeah. We're actually all married. You're not Patrick Marion by any chance?
Patrick Cohn.
Anybody here with a Marion element, or Mary element in their name? Any males with a male in their name? Well, I'm one of those. I'm Christopher Marion, or Christy, as to say here in this part of the country. But we were all born in 1954, the Marion year. So there was huge devotion to Our Lady right through history. But this was an important icon sitting on an altar with the convent, or the Araucasian or Augustinian sisters here in Clonfert. And while we can't say that it's linked directly to your Maddens, this is Madden country. This is Madden territory. It's very likely that there were sisters of the chieftains of your Maddens in this convent. That's where they went. If you weren't going to be married to another princely, we'd say a secular prince, you ended up as a prince or a princess of the church, or a daughter of the church. So it's very, very likely. We have no documentary evidence. We only have the name of one abbess, one reference to the thing in the 1302 paper taxation. A lady called Monigea. She was the abbess of Clonfert, and we know nothing else about it.
Was she Madden?
We don't know. But you see, the Monigea, you wouldn't know where that comes from. Maybe somebody could. I'd be honest, it's frightened that you might like something out from Maddens, and that'd be worse, wouldn't it? So that's not what we want. Well, she needs to be a Madden. She needs to be from the territory. But it's one of those obscure names that just appears in a record, and obviously it's diluted as well. We'll never get back to the root of the name itself, to the proper Gaelic root. But this is very important. The other thing, if you saw this, we had this out here 2 Saturdays ago, lying on sheets there we undertook 3D scanning it. So when you look at our parish website very shortly, you'll be able to rotate that lady around, upside down, inside out, and when you do, you're going to be surprised, because if you turn it on the side, it's only about that width. It's like a plank, and you'll be surprised because the whole back is hewn out of it. It's oak.
She's calling it.
That's my boss, actually.
God.
Can't hold that to your boss.
God.
I'll have to ring her. She'll know. She's trying to arrange stuff now, I suppose, for the weekend, or next weekend, Heritage Week. But if you see the back of that statue, it's actually cut out. It's carved out. It's hollow at the back. And the reason for that is that back in the medieval period, when they worked with oak, as I mentioned with the timbers, they're working in fresh oak, green oak. And in order to stop the timber from drying out fast and the hard oak then causing cracks in the outer skin, they had to take out the heart of the oak. So when you see them, you'll actually see the backs are all chopped out of all of these statues. And that was pre-killing drying days. So a very practical solution. There's a statue in Dublin known as Our Lady of Dublin, and it was believed that it was used as a pig trough during the Cromwellian period. Everything is blamed on Cromwell. It wasn't. It wasn't. The reason it has a trough in the back is because it's a medieval statue, and you have to do this. But folk tradition can override fact at times, so you have to understand that.
Propaganda.
But this is very important.
Propaganda.
It's propaganda, yeah, propaganda. You get it in all periods during history. But it's very, very important here. During the month of May here, there are thousands of people here on pilgrimage. Thousands. You come in here, there'll be smoke and heat here for several hours. This place will be full of candles, full of people here doing devotion here to Our Lady. And then every night at 8 o'clock, there's either Mass here or some other. Well, generally Masses, but there's various ceremonies, but generally Masses here every night with priests from all different places. Masses for the sick, Masses for the students, whatever the particular need might be.
Irish pilgrims or?
Irish pilgrims. Yeah. And mainly natives, we'll say people coming from County Offaly across, Tipperary, Galway, but they come from further afield. But it's quite amazing, but all coming to this lady here. And the unusual thing is that it's here as a living statue, in situ within the church. The majority are actually in museums as museum pieces. So this is a functioning statue, doing exactly what it was doing back at the end of the 13th century or the beginning of the 14th century, whichever date you choose. And people believe there have been miracles ascribed to it. The glass cases in it is from the 1940s or 50s. People were picking bits off it and that. But a lady called Katrina MacLeod in 1945 cycled around, during the war years, cycled around Ireland, and she recorded all of these statues. And that one was taken to Dublin and had some conservation done. So it's very, very important. It's only 4 foot high. As I say, we had it out of the glass case here, lying on sheets and pillows here 2 weeks ago, recording it, and quite a number of people were lucky enough to be in the church at the time. So we had a full audience for all of that work going on, and they were delighted with it. So it's very important here within Clonfert. Like as I say, when I was a young guy, when I was about 10 or 11 or whatever, my function at that stage was to come across here every morning, it was in the old time, it was pre-Vatican II, we had a different shrine, load the shrine with candles, take the money out and bring it across to Miss Hagen, to my teacher across. So she got the money and I got the job of carrying. As went on into the padre at the time, back into to the parish. But, I'm talking about the early 60s, now back into the 60s. So, it's amazing. So it's still working away there, doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. But that, without a doubt, that was in the face of the medieval Maddens that lived in this area. This is their hinterland. So they saw that the same as you're seeing it. Probably saw it with far sharper eyes because they're probably a much more, not saying that people here aren't devout, but a different form of devotion. They would have been patrons to places like these. And we can see that in all the churches they're building. So they were very fond of building churches. Now, that could be to atone for sins as well, but we can't prove that at this stage, but that happened as well.
I might have missed it. Where did it come from?
This statue?
Yeah.
Somewhere in the hinterland.
Somewhere
around here, somewhere in the parish.
Okay, right.
Somewhere in the parish.
But like this? Rulers like this? Are there other statues like this?
Yeah, they're enthroned. There's Kilcorban Madonna from the parish of Tina, a neighbouring parish here. There's Our Lady of Bethlehem from Athlone. Now, some people will argue Our Lady of Bethlehem is actually a continental Madonna. Okay. But Katrina MacLeod argues that there was a school of craftsmanship taking place here during that medieval period that lasted right up into the 17th century. So for anybody that's in this region, and you get a chance to go to the museum in Loughrea beside the Catholic Cathedral there, you will see the Kilcormac Madonna. You'll also see a 15th century St. Catherine. You'll see St. John, several other statues like that, and loads of crucifixions and that, we'll say Calvaries as we call them. So it's a lot of stuff here. This is a very rich area. The diocese of Clonfert was a very rich, and I don't mean financially rich, I mean rich in ecclesiastical remains. And the reason for that was that the Burgos, the Clann the Anglo-Normans, the overlords, even though they themselves had reformed at a later stage, they looked out for Catholicism in this region. So they survived in their churches, whereas in other areas they were destroyed. So there's a different relationship, and if you look at the collections there, you'll see chalices and all sorts of stuff still being bequeathed. When we were back in Derryhiney, there was a chalice given from Derryhiney. The Derryhiney chalice was given to Portumna prior. So these Gaelic Maddens were bequeathing chalices and all sorts of stuff. There's clear evidence for that. So there's no reason why they weren't worshipping in front of this as well. And probably loads of other statues that were probably in the churches around. So it's very, very important. We can't tie it straight to the Maddens, but what you're looking at is their landscape. This is part of the landscape of worship that they lived within. So I think it's important from that perspective.
He has her hand on her heart.
Yeah, well, I think he's holding her hair. It's holding her dress. But also,
the symbolism is on that.
yeah, I think you could be right. But anyway, that's it. You'll get back.